we have to cut transportation, that will be for summer because kids in middle school, it's hard to let them go at 6 o'clock using public transit. It's a safety issue. So thank you very much. I'll provide more details.
Okay, we have the Metro Arts Commission. I believe this will be Ms. Cole's last budget hearing with us. We wish you well on your new endeavors. You are a gem to the city, and I would be remiss to say, and just speaking for the committee and council members, it's a great loss to the city to lose you. So. We didn't mean to make you cry.
Well, thank you. I was actually going to start by thanking everyone here in this chamber who has been a deep supporter of the arts for a really long time, and for this council and the several mayor administrations that I've worked for really understanding the critical importance of arts, not just as something extra, but something that is the very soul of the city and that makes us different and special and important. I would be remiss if I didn't thank my entire board, which is sitting out there, my entire staff, which is sitting out there, and most of the arts community. So thank you to them. For always showing out on budget hearing night. I'll take a moment of personal privilege since this is my last budget hearing, and I know the incredible, having been married to a budget chair before, I know the incredible difficulty that each of you are under, and the passion that each of you have for both making sure the services are rendered in your district, but also making sure that you follow through on the promises made to Metro employees and its residents. And just say why I think our budget and the work that we do as a commission contributes to all of that. And I want to sort of talk about three things. When I came to this agency 8 years ago, the board really asked that we think about art in a different way, and we get up every day and think about what it means for every resident in this community to either make art, get paid an equitable wage for making that art, have access to the arts in their daily life. And in doing so, we have really transformed the way we work and what we do. Thanks in part to this board, to the council, we have seen budget increases over the last several years that really help us do that. And I want to tell some stories to you about what that has meant to our community. First and foremost, we felt very strongly that we needed to lean into the idea of wages. About 23% of the workforce in Davidson County is in some way, shape, or form committed to cultural tourism or the creative arts. In fact, we don't function as a city if artists don't function in our city. And when we looked at the data, we asked ourselves, what were we doing to make sure we were paying artists, particularly artists who didn't live downtown, who lived in Donaldson and Hermitage and Old Hickory and Bordeaux and North Nashville, and we made deep changes. So if you look at our program growth over the last couple of years, you will see a significant doubling down on wages for artists. In fact, since this chamber helped us start the Thrive program, which provides community-based and neighborhood programming in districts all over the city, we have paid more than 600 artists, and of those artists, nearly 69% of them have been artists of color who for the first time got city funding. And I think that is pretty much unequaled around the United States as a program that really says we have to pay people where they are, and we have to pay the people who know the stories of the city. Yeah, thank you. I think it's something to cheer about too. This week, several of you got emails from us about the 40 for 40 program where we are acquiring art from local artists. I'm actually proud to say I neglected to introduce the two people to my right and left. Caroline Vincent, who has for the last almost 7 years run our public art program and will serve as interim director, and who through her personal leadership has really changed the way we've done public art in the city. When we first came, both of us, to the city, we had 2 pieces of public art that were installed. Caroline's helped us oversee our 50th installation, and I'm really proud to say that more than 70% of our public art collection has been done by Tennessee artists and local artists, and half of that has been done by artists of color, which is really unequaled in America in terms of stuff. So this woman is, you're being left in very good hands about committing to wages for local folks. And to my right is Clay Haynes, my board chair. The board has really been all about making sure that we are doing this work and paying folks. Just one other example of how we've really leaned into wages. The Southeast Regional Park, which spans multiple community center districts, has just finished a master plan. We actually today, we hired an internationally renowned artist who does place-based work, but as part of her contract with the city, built in a mentorship program where she will be mentoring multiple local artists on how to do that work. So we've really taken contracting to a new level on wages too, and making sure we're using our contracting might to help train local artists. I want to talk, because I know what you all are dealing with, which is the revenue problem, and make sure that you understand that the people out there are part of the solution, and that a reduction in our budget would actually be a reduction in revenue for the city. Last year we did a nationally ranked research report that looked at the economic impact of nonprofit cultural institutions in our community. Last year we gave 61 grants to cultural institutions. Those grantees contributed $429.3 million in economic impact in Davidson County alone, and that was $51 million in state and local revenue. So they generate taxes that we use to collect to then pay the things that we all know are important: roads, streets, sidewalks, COLA. And so it's important that just because we don't own the infrastructure of the city for the arts, we don't own, just like we own parks and libraries and things like that, it is owned by the community, but the resources we put back in really are an economic engine. That same report identified that those people out there employ the equivalent of 14,000 FTEs, either directly employed in their institutions or that are employed in the services industry that they help support. And so the arts are both about supporting local wages, but also about supporting tax revenue that comes into the coffers of this very city and helps us keep the engine. And those are real critical bottom lines. But I would argue, and then I'll stop and answer all your questions, that the most critical bottom line that we contribute as a city is a social bottom line, is a moral bottom line, is the idea that arts connect us to our very humanity in this moment where our city is navigating so much change. So many questions of what does it mean to be in this neighborhood? What does it mean to live here? How can I do that? How can I afford that? Who am I? Who is this new neighbor? The arts and the artists who sit back in that room and who right now sit in your neighborhoods creating dances, creating programs, help us navigate that conversation and help us put it front and center. And so what do we become if we don't also support those people and those narratives, both the narratives that have been here for hundreds of years, but also the new narratives that come into our place. And that gets supported through public art, through programs, through cultural participation with institutions that are sitting out there, through spoken word. And that is, I think, the reason why we support public funding for the arts, and why I would argue that this work is never done, but this work is always part of intrinsically who we are as Nashvillians. So I want to thank you for your support and also take any of your questions.
Thank you. Great job. I believe if you're the first department to come in and articulate what your budget does for our bottom line. So very impressive.
Thank you, ma'am.
Great job. Council Lady Allen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jen, we're sad you're going. We appreciate what you have done, and know you're leaving us in capable hands. Just to pick up on a conversation that you and I have been having for a couple of years now.
Yep.
Again, the Dragon is back, and we are so excited. It was a great public-private partnership,
Yep.
and also a great demonstration of the importance of being intentional about maintaining public art. And so I know that you've done the inventory, which was kind of the first step to figure out how to make sure that everything that we're putting out there stays safe and working and in good condition. So can you kind of walk us through what the next steps for that are, just so I can stay on top of Caroline and,
Yeah.
and the other folks and make sure that we keep that moving forward?
Right, and just because not everybody's had as many conversations as we have had, Caroline's team, led by Ann Leslie Owens, who's our collections manager, and with the huge support of the finance department, has done an analysis of all the art owned by the city. So The Metro did not have a public art program until 2001. Therefore, every piece of art that was given to the city or created by the city prior to 2001 really is the property of that particular department. So in this case, the dragon is the property of the Parks Department. There are other pieces like the courthouse pieces that are the property of General Services. But the general public thinks that they're all ours and thinks it's all our job to maintain. So we set about just to one inventory those. So we created an inventory and an analysis of the condition of many of those objects. Some of them, as you can imagine, are in not good condition and have been deferred maintenance issues for quite some time. Others are in much better shape. We have created an interdepartmental work group, including historical, general services, parks, the departments who tend to own most of the work, to really look at policies that we could put forward that would assist us so that we don't continue to have deferred maintenance issues that become a drag on the city budget. You will see in our capital submission, when that is filed, we have put in money to hire a conservator who would be a professional person who would come in and do an analysis of what it would take for us to actually repair the sort of top 10 works that need the most repair and maintenance. That may or may not happen. It is true that this body approved 4% funds for the artworks, the 50 artworks that Caroline's team manages. We use those funds for regular recurrent maintenance. When something becomes so profound or it is so degraded that it needs to be capitalized, that moves the repair to a different place. So our goal always is to eventually, with the cooperation of other departments, begin to move all of the art that the city owns into a place where we can do regular maintenance so that we don't have to do $300,000 to $2 million repairs on things. And that's the standard of practice around the country to make sure that things are routinely looked at. In our collection, we review every single piece in the collection by a structural engineer and review team every other year, and routine maintenance is done so that we don't have a buildup of millions and millions of dollars. That's the end game. It will take us a while to get there, and with the current budget situation, we understand that. But we think it's fair for all of you to have that information and to be able to know what costs really are. Does that answer most of your question? Okay.
Thank you so much, Councilor Allen. Vice Chair Schulman, at large.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm glad that you finally got that right. So, Director, a couple of questions before you leave us.
Yes.
And I'll save the best one for last. Two budgetary questions, and we just have to ask because of the situation we're in.
Yep.
The management and consultant services increase, it's $88,700. Is that an increase in a contract that we have? What is that?
No. So we were lucky to be awarded a PIP project 2 years ago. It was a partnership with Judge Calloway at the Juvenile Court and the Oasis Center to provide restorative justice and arts programming for court-involved youth. And that remained in a special purposes fund for a period of years when it was a PIP, and the finance department is now moving that baseline into our operating budget. So technically, this is a program that would be entering its third year of our management. It just hasn't been shown up on our books as an operating expense because it's been managed sort of in the PIP program. I will toot the horn of that program to sort of say that in the several years that we've done that, we've trained 39 artists and cultural organizations in restorative practice, trauma-informed care, and working with positive youth development. And we've now worked with nearly 400 young people that are court involved. So. Okay,
and is that's the total amount? Is the 887? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Second question has to do with, and I may have asked this question sometime before in the past couple of years, but other expenses for you all. It's pretty consistent from last year, but it's running about $2.4 million. It's sitting in the budget. What is that?
Which piece of paper?
So it would be on I-41-4.
Okay.
It's just under the GST General Fund.
That's the pass-through amount we give in grants.
Okay, so that's what it is. It's just a pass-through.
Yes, it's the pass-through. So sort of you all allocate the overall budget, and then we allocate that to grants to community. So 100% of that goes back out to those folks out there.
Okay, that's where it is. Okay, thank you. Last question. This is your last question for me as the director. Where is that carousel?
Oh, Lord.
And are you taking with you to Arizona?
This is on
Where is it
tape, right?
going?
This is like, we record the answer to the question every year, and the answer to the question is always the same. The carousel is owned by the Tennessee State Museum, who in its second phase of capital redevelopment plans to put the carousel back out for public display, but they are in the current round of capital development for the museum, which will open next year. But the plan is for that carousel to come back out to be enjoyed by the general public. But the city does not own it and has not owned it in quite some time.
You sure you don't have it in your suitcase?
It is not going to Arizona. It would not do well in the heat. Yeah.
I'm not, have you seen it in the, I mean, it's gone missing. I just want to know that somebody has seen it.
I think it's a little bit of a fallacy to say that it is missing. I think it is in storage, which it needs to be, because it needs to be maintained so that when it comes back out for the public, that it is happy and pretty and not lost. So I would refer your questions to Ashley Howe, the director of the Tennessee State Museum.
Ashley. So the chair of the budget committee and I are going to go looking for it one day, see if we can find it.
Okay.
If we do,
There are some lovely sketches done by Mr. Grooms of the carousel that are the property of Metro Arts and are in our office.
we're going to find it and we're going to bring a piece of it back so we
Okay.
know that we found it. Okay,
I
thank you.
think that's a good idea.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Council Lady Johnson, Karen Johnson.
Thank you, Chair Burchard. Jen, we're going to miss you a lot. You've done an incredible amount of work with what you have. And one of the things I wanted to ask you about was the grants for the eligible nonprofits that you had mentioned previously. The listing of those nonprofits, has that grown? What is your plan in regards to continuing the effort to make sure that arts opportunities are spread out throughout the county?
That's a great question. We're actually in open grant review season right now. I sent to Chair Vercher a list of our current contracts, which I think I sent to all of you earlier today. We don't award new contracts until we know what our budget is. I will tell you, particularly in our smallest budget categories, so our tiniest organizations that tend to be grassroots, we have about 8 new applicants from very small organizations. The other thing I will say is that even our large and medium-sized organizations have done incredible work over the last couple of years to really try to be more relevant to all neighborhoods in the community, change the nature and scope of their outreach programs, hire more local artists to be part of those programs. I think you could see, for example, the Nick Cave performance that the Nick Cave exhibit that was funded at the Frist was a deep partnership, not just with the Frist Museum, but with dozens and dozens and dozens of local artists and cultural institutions that paid those wages sort of out further into the community. I think you see that with many of our large institutions really thinking about and doing programming that is not just sort of what we would call repertoire programming, but really kind of moving out both with Free Symphony in the Park and other things like that. But we consistently see I won't bore you with numbers, but we consistently see the largest growth in applicants in our small and medium-sized organizations, so those people who have $250,000 to $1 budgets. And I think it is because of the city growing and because of people sort of beginning to sort of do services where they are, sort of in geographic locations.
Well, again, you do an incredible amount of work. And one of the things that I'm very excited about your leadership and your fiscal leadership is that you have really tried hard to be inclusive of everyone. You want everyone to have access. And you want to do more. We know we all want more. But you take steps and give people hope that we will see arts access grow as we gain more support due to our growing economy. One of the things I want you to leave to whomever comes behind you is that, and Karen is leaving too, so I want to make sure this is still on the front burner, that we do in Southeast Davidson County want to have the bike racks, the art type bike racks that we see, you know, in East Nashville and in downtown and those areas. We really want to see that come out to Southeast Davidson County. I know we got to take baby steps, but I want to make that ask that for future planning, strategic planning purposes within your budget projections, please look at making sure that we have access to that And I also want to give a shout out to Herb Williams. He has been incredible. And that's what I'm saying, that you've done this work in bringing artists to the community and letting the everyday person have access and input into the artwork that we're putting in all areas of the city. And we are excited about the opening of Smith Springs Regional Community Center and seeing Herb's work with the community called Sky Lake be debuted. And so I just want to thank you from the bottom of all of my constituents' hearts that they are incredibly grateful to you and the dedicated members of the Arts Commission and your staff for all of the work that you've done to be inclusive of all communities in Nashville. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Lady. Council Lady Van Rees.
Thank you very much. Just wanted to repeat these numbers because I want to make sure I got these right.
Yep.
For a $2.5 million investment, there were 61 grants reflecting $429.3 million impact, with a reflection of 14,000 full-time employees in this
Full-time equivalents, yep.
in the city.
Yep.
That's absolutely breathtaking.
Don't
and-
forget the $51 million in state and local tax revenue.
See, there you go.
Yeah.
It goes without saying how much I adore what you've been able to do in the last 8 years, and I'm hoping that we can continue to honor what it is that has happened here in Nashville. There's no question in my mind that the folks in Arizona and really the whole country are about to receive a great blessing, and we look forward to you returning so that we can show you the next 50 pieces of public art. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Lady. Council Lady Sharon Hurt at large.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jen, I just wanted to echo some of the sentiments that you've heard already, but I'm particularly happy about Thrive and all that you all have been able to do. And I wanted to give a special shout out to Lauren Fitzgerald because she's just done something amazing for the North Nashville community and the North artists. And I want them to know how proud I am of them and how they've made that community come alive with the art that they've done. And I was trying to remember what nonprofit you were over before you came to arts, and I couldn't remember because the Arts Commission made you come alive.
Oh, thank you. It was Hands on Nashville. But I appreciate
Was it Hands on Nashville? Yeah. I just remember Gilligan, your last name, yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Director Cole, thank you so much, and to your team and to the arts community for everything that you do for this great city. That concludes your hearing, and good luck.
Thank you.
Now we will hear from the General Services and Fleet Management. If you can begin to make your way down, we will continue with discussing the fiscal 2018-2019 operating budget.